Morning! What's up, EcoFarm? Friday, January 24th. We're running a little bit behind, so I'm going to make this quick. Thank you all so much for being here. This is the 45th EcoFarm. Amazing to think that organics used to be ostracized, and now it is something you can find in Safeway. We are so grateful to all of our sponsors and food donors, and we have had so many scholarships this year. Over 65 people are here on scholarships. So amazing, and really just appreciate everyone making the trek over here. We've got a really great program for you today, and I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much.
Good morning. It's Michael Ackley-Grady from the board, just with some quick housekeeping this morning. Please remember to wear your conference name badge at all times. We will also be checking IDs at all events serving alcohol. Help make EcoFarm a zero-waste event. Please use the recycling and compost bins placed around the conference grounds. All containers, plates, coffee cups, and utensils offered in the kitchen or by our vendors are compostable. We are grateful for the partnership of Asilomar, the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, and U.S. Pure Water. If you are not registered for lodging on Asilomar conference grounds, please use street parking. Watch out for those no parking signs and don't block bike lanes to make sure that you do not get a parking ticket. There is also no sleeping in cars on Asilomar grounds, and all state park rules will be enforced. Be sure to check your program for the many special events and activities such as EcoFarm Film Series and the Healing Center and tonight's banquet and award ceremony. For meal times, please refer to the schedule in your program booklet and not the ticket hours printed on Asilomar meal tickets. Tonight's award banquet is from 6:45 to 8:30 p.m. If you want to skip the award ceremony in long lines, you can dine early starting at 5:30. It will have the same dinner menu. Get your organic cotton conference and dirt first t-shirts, hoodies, and hats available at the EcoFarm booth this year inside the expo tent. Many of the workshops throughout the conference are eligible for continuing education credits. Please check your program and registration in the Surf and Sand if you are interested. Your voice helps us guide EcoFarm in planning each year's conference. Please fill out our surveys after every workshop. QR codes and paper options are available. Also, you may download the Mighty Networks app to access complete and up-to-date schedule of EcoFarm workshops and special events. You can create your own customizable conference schedule, find workshop locations, and connect with other attendees and more. You can find the Mighty Networks app on your smartphone app store. Do not park in the fire lanes down the road leading to the tent. The park's service will ticket, fine, and possibly even illegally tow illegally parked vehicles. A couple of additions or changes to the schedule. Rupa's book signing of Inflamed Deep Medicine and Anatomy of Injustice book will be taking place today from 3 to 4 p.m. in the expo tent, along with 3 other scheduled ones, which are Hannah Moller's book, Designing with Dried Flowers, Miguel A. Altier's book, Agroecology, Science, and Politics, and Eric Olson's book, The Regenerative Landscape, Design, and Build Landscapes that Repair the Environment. Please note that the workshop titled Amazing will be taking place today from 10:30 a.m. to noon in Nautilus, not on Saturday as is shown in the workshop descriptions. Again, that's Amazing, today starting at 10:30 a.m. in Nautilus. Also, the Shabbat dinner will be meeting at 5 p.m. by the fire pit and will begin at 5:30. For more information on that, it is posted on the community board in front of Surf and Sand. Don't get outbid on the handmade Afghan at the EcoFarm booth in Surf and Sand. Thank you and have a great conference today.
Música, maestros, la cucaracha. I love that. Thank you. Wow, what a pleasure to see you all here. This is my vacación, my yearly vacation, even though it's not too far away from the farm, but it feels like a nice vacation that it's needed for every farmer. It's such an honor to be here, and actually, Amigo Bob, we know that this was one of his babies, and I just ended up with it by default, which I greatly took, and I enjoy it, and I love it. Wow. We're going to, we're going to make sure everybody that is not understanding English get the headsets. And if you wish to polish up your español, maybe. Allá está atrás la muchacha que tiene los headsets para interpretación. Okay, we're going to get started here because we want to hear from these successful farmers. This is the day that they get to share with us and shine, and we're going to learn from them. We're going to support them. We're going to do things a little bit different than things have been done in the past. The format's it's more like a little panel, which I'm happy with it. I think it makes people feel more comfortable sometimes. So I'm just going to go, here's Tom Willie. He said, Javier, make sure you watch those words in Spanish that some people don't understand. Pretty much he said, behave, otherwise I'm going to kick your ass. Well, let's call the successful farmers up here. I mean, we have, a farmer that is doing lots of beautiful flowers, florists growing flowers, and we have a city urban farmer advocating for food to get to some underserved communities, and then we have an orchard grower from the foothills. So let's call up Kelly Brown, Wanda Stewart, and el señor Justin Miller up here, and then we'll get the conversation started. Bienvenida, Kelly.
Are you going to press me down, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. All right. Hello, everyone. Farming brings so many learning experiences, and this is definitely one of them. I've never spoken in such a big room, or, in this way. Yeah, and thinking about introducing myself, I thought I would just sort of introduce how I got into farming. So in 2009, I was 3 years out of UCSC with a degree in feminist studies and community studies. I was enmeshed in DIY culture, queer activism, and just with a general mindset towards dismantling power structures that are harming people. And I was working as a bike messenger at a local bike messenger co-op. Oh, thank you. Shout out to the bike church. Bike church. And at that time, my favorite farmer's market booth had the most incredible bouquets that glowed in this way that flowers did from the gardens of my youth. And also, it was staffed by these incredible queer folks that were dressed really well, flamboyant, and also really hardworking. And it totally stuck in my 25-year-old brain. And I ended up getting a job at that booth. That booth was Blue Heron Farms, and that turned into an 11-year career with Blue Heron Farms. Blue Heron, for those of you who don't know, oh yeah, I have to use this clicker. Dude, there's me. Sorry. Okay, this is one of our team photos at Blue Heron at our farm party. Blue Heron is an 18-acre mixed veggie and flower farm in Corralitos, so not too far from here. And there, over the 11 years that I was there, I I did like all sorts of things that it culminated in me managing the flower program there. I learned about the like farming element, the business of flowers. Also just like, it was my first real experience working in agriculture, so I learned, and working alongside Mexican immigrant farm workers, and just like, it was a huge education for me about my own positionality in the world, the privileges of whiteness and citizenship, and also like just how to work really hard and really fast, but with a positive attitude. I also learned I noticed this kind of increasing interest in cut flowers, like more kind of inspired cut flowers, so like different stuff than was available at the flower mart. An interest from florists, especially high-end florists in the Bay Area, and so I pursued that business, and then in 2020, when a lot of us were sort of reevaluating work, I started to also be thinking more about what I wanted from work. And I decided to start my own farm. One of the struggles that I was having at Blue Heron was with the kind of like macho, male-dominated work environment of a production farm. I felt like I was tired of contorting myself to like prove myself constantly to people. I wanted something different for myself and for other workers. So yeah, I started Do Right Flower Farm, and we are located, oh, this is cute. That's Naomi, who's here right now with a gopher, and this is just one of our harvests. Just to give you a sense, like this is our little red pickup truck, but we're filling that truck up like 15 times a week or so. So we're producing quite a lot of flowers. And yeah, just going back to starting the farm, it was like once I made that decision, a lot of things fell in line, including, it's weird to frame it this way, but my grandpa died and he left me with some money, and so I immediately had all of this money to invest in the farm, and I invested $100,000 in starting a farm, which was a crazy thing to do, but it meant that we were able to be successful. Like our first season, I was able to pay myself, pay all my workers, and build a ton of infrastructure up. And yeah, it's been a space of like a really kind of healing space of creating like a farm environment that's truly supportive, and like where the sort of constant stressors of that kind of macho needing to prove myself and other people just doesn't exist. So that's been incredible. Other work that I've been doing just to kind of encourage the local flower market in general is I help run the Santa Cruz Flower Hub. So we're a group of growers that we aggregate our product onto one online platform, Gather Flora. I know Gather Flora people are here. And then we have a centralized pickup spot in town and also do a delivery route. And then as well, we're doing, starting my own farm made me have to really face how little research there was out there on organic cut flower growing as far as like IPM work. And so we got a Western SARE grant and are doing IPM research in cut flowers. And part of that is also an educational aspect. So we're doing lots of like events and articles and stuff to share that. And yeah, we're entering our 5th season, and just like continuing to refine and find work-life balance and all the rest. So yeah, thank you so much.
Let's give Wanda a warm welcome again. Kelly, hopefully, I love to see what the IPM research comes out of and see if we can compete. Get rid of the cucumber beetle, mildew, and that's always hard in flower production. Adelante, señorita.
Gracias. Hi, my name is Wanda Stewart, and I'm the Executive Director of Common Vision. Really happy to be here in a lot of different capacities. I've been coming to EcoFarm since about 2014. And it's just really good to see familiar faces and familia. Let me move us forward. Nope. That's Kelly's. Oh, where'd that one come from? Okay, so this is me. Oh, I see what happened. So I have to say, when Joy Moore, who I've known for many, many years in Berkeley, I live in Berkeley. Hey, I was wondering where you were. Joy's here. Joy called me to talk about this panel, and I was like, what? Successful? What's that mean? Right? Especially when you're raising money for a nonprofit. And then she said farmer, and I was like, there's people at EcoFarm that do hundreds of acres. Like, I'm doing schoolyards, right? And how can I call myself, you know, a little bit of imposter syndrome. And so I got to thinking about what makes me successful first. And that first photo down there, those 4 black women, they're ex-slaves. They were at an ex-slave conference. That photo was taken in 1925. Everybody in that photo is more than 100 years old. And the lady with the stole around her neck was 125. Right? And when I saw it, and you know, I was somewhere deep like Facebook, I saw it and was like, slavery was a terrible thing. How are they standing taller than I am, especially when you're walking around EcoFarm? And I got to thinking, they ate organic vegetables. They had meaningful community on whom they were dependent. And they had a spiritual connection with the soil and the land. And so I say I stand on their shoulders. If I can call myself successful, it is because of them. And I want to ask everybody here who goes to these kinds of things that when we do land acknowledgements, which are very, very appropriate, that we also talk about the stolen, not just the stolen land, but the stolen people and the stolen labor, right? Right? I don't ever want to deny the acknowledgments that others get because my people don't get the same, right? Because all of our pain is all of our pain. But I want to ask all of you to make it the habit to thank everybody and acknowledge everybody that has got our country to where it is today, and that's a whole different thing. Anyway, so those ladies, that's why I'm successful. And there's a whole bunch of other people too. This is the land that I steward. I work at we work at 3 different schools in West Oakland. If you're not from California, West Oakland is the hood. And you see primarily, I'm stewarding asphalt, right? But we also have a big, dry, and beautiful patch of green. And we're teaching folks to appreciate the environment where we live, where we are. And how to steward it. And it's great, because I'm talking about elementary school. So we're teaching kindergartners how to harvest worms, right? We're teaching 3rd graders how to grow butterflies and so forth and so on. You get it. So we're embedded in the school, and we're educating the future for the climate change. This is also where I knew I was successful. This photo was taken on March 13th, 2020. The day that Oakland Unified School District closed schools for the pandemic, without notice, I might add. And I didn't, you know, if you remember back then, we all thought, oh, we're gonna die, here comes the wave, right? And I didn't know what else to do except to run over to the school and harvest as many collard greens and whatever we had to send home with the kids, because we didn't know when and if we'd see them again. And we had these are purple collard trees. Y'all know purple collard trees? Purple collard trees are amazing, right? So we had a giant field of them, and everybody took home grocery bags full of collard greens and 4 herbs that were growing everywhere: plantain, mint, mullein, and oregano. And the kids loaded it up, and they went home, and you see, don't they look terrified in that picture, right? So after they left, I laid down in the field and cried. 1, because I was terrified, right? But 2, I was proud that we had greens, that we had food, that we had mature gardens that we could direct the kids to, that they knew how to take those greens home and make medicine for their family because of how nutritious they are. They knew how to propagate them, which, by the way, is just cutting off the tip and putting it back down in the soil, right? They knew what to do with those herbs. They knew they could put the oregano on pizza, but it would count as medicine, right? And those 4 herbs are the 4 herbs that you really wanted for respiratory distress, right? Which is what we thought we were all gonna suffer from. So I felt like I could go, it's okay if I die in the pandemic, because I taught the children food and medicine, right? And so in that, I would say, yes, I'll call myself a successful farmer. And this is the crop I grow. Yeah. It is important to me to be stewarding our young people, and particularly people that are black and brown like me. I include the rainbow very quickly, okay? But I'm starting at my zone 00, which are my people. And we can see in what's happening in our TVs and in our world that there's not a whole lot of people taking care of my people and people like me. And so I encourage all of us to use these lessons to double down on growing our future so that we're all successful. Yeah? More later.
Thank you, Wanda. I appreciate what you're doing with our future and growing kids and teaching them how to feed themselves and how to cure themselves by working the land. Señor Justin, véngase para acá. Tell us about what you're doing on the foothills and all those beautiful orchards. And I would like to say that Justin is very successful because he has a beautiful wife, Camelia. I just wanted to make sure that we bring her name.
Pretty tough to follow these 2 amazing people. What Wanda does is something that I really look up to, and something that's important for me to really recognize in farming is the people that came before us, the people that got us into it, the people that first turned us on to the love of the soil and growing your own vegetables. I'm a son of hippie parents. You know, I've lived pretty much everywhere in California and in Baja California. I call San Diego and Tijuana and Seaside here locally home. Currently I live in Newcastle up in Placer County up in the Sierra Foothills, and I'm blessed to be able to have a strong partner. My wife Camelia Enriquez, she's really my boss. I just work for her. So for us, you know, farming's a legacy, and it's really built on those who come before us. My step-grandma here in Seaside, we used to grow our own vegetables to eat. My dad was a Vietnam veteran. He was a hippie. I've been everywhere from Big Sur to you name it, and then he eventually moved to Tijuana with a lot of the ex-Vietnam, or the Vietnam vets. And so I've had the blessing of being around a lot of things and spending some time in the soil, but I'm a city kid. I grew up in the inner city of San Diego, and East San Diego, and you know, farming wasn't really something we saw, but you know, before foraging was popular, we used to forage throughout San Diego to fill our bellies. How I got into farming was as a kid that grew up in the streets, involved in bad stuff, I was lucky enough to meet my wife, and she helped me get on the straight and narrow path at an early age, and we were blessed to have 4 children. I met her grandfather, Howard Nakai. He was the patriarch of her family. He had kept the farm going from the time he was 14 years old, when his father was murdered for being Japanese. And he ran it with his wife, Tomeo Nakai, who founded the farm with her husband, Yoshichika Nakai, in 1912. And as a history nerd, I really had a connection when I was up there recovering from a major surgery, and I read Camillea's great-grandmother's book. In one direction, it was written in Japanese, and the other one was written in English, and it was called Recollections. And the story of perseverance and the story of love for her family and for the land was something that will always resonate with me. I was working in Sonoma County, running a food plant there, and my wife, Camilla, started selling fruit for her grandfather. And that's the one, her grandfather was the role model in her life, and at some point, he made us promise that when he passed to come up and help her mom, Sheila Enriquez, and Raul Enriquez, keep the farm going. So we moved up with our family of 4 kids, gave up a career, came up and helped the farm. Camilla does a great job selling, managing, planning what to grow. She picks and packs in the field and does everything. And basically, I'm here speaking for her because she wouldn't come up here. What we're blessed with, and what I'll tell you, what's important to me is the heart and soul of the farm. Even as a ghetto kid that grew up in the barrio, the technical side's my strength, so I spend a lot of time on all the technical aspects of the farm. But Camilla, and then the gentleman up here in the right-hand corner is Valentin Enriquez. That's Camilla's first cousin. Valentin's worked on the farm since he's 15 years old. Matias first started on the farm when he was 17. And then up there, we got Nacho. I call him Tio Nacho. And then we got a mix of everybody else up here. We got Don Matia and some other people, but we all work together. Our hands are in the trees, in the ground, hand in hand working together. But one of the things that I think is important for everybody to understand, being a successful farmer is more than just being in the field. I mean, you got to be able to do HR, especially with the regulatory climate that we're in. You got to manage all this, that. There's the sales and marketing. There's managing your infrastructure. There's your water subshed groups. Your reporting for, even if you're using compost and 100% organic like we are, you still got to go through all the rigmarole of a conventional farmer. So there's a lot more to it than just being out there. But collectively with our team, that's what allows us to do what we do. In 2020, we had a fire at Twin Peaks Orchard that burnt down 95% of our infrastructure. Working in a family farm is never easy. I ran the farm for a while, but left and started my own farm across the road because family can be difficult. And people always say, oh, it must be so great, taking over a family farm. I'm like, no, we bought it. And it would have been easier to start up my own, which I did. But there was too much legacy and heritage in Twin Peaks. So after the fire, Camilla's mom, Sheila Enriquez, who passed away recently, you'll see up there with Camilla, and also her Aunt Carol, who I call my Aunt Carol, Iwasaki. Aunt Carol was born in a internment camp, and that 81-year-old lady is the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. She's my best friend. We make jams and stuff together up in our kitchen. That's Sheila down here. Over there in the your far left is Raul, my suegro. And then up top here, that's Tomeo and Yoshichika Nakai, and then that's Howard Nakai. And, when I first met Secretary Ross with my wife Camilla, what she remembered was when she first started out in agriculture, she met Howard and he helped her ease into agriculture. And I'll tell you what, everywhere I go, people always talk about Howard, and every time I read his memoirs, I get all emotional and I start volunteering for all kinds of stuff I don't have time for, because he did. You know, so when I'm out in the field bitching about stuff, or I've worked 180 days in a row, and it's, you know, 12, 13, 14 hours, and it's 115 at our place in October, you know, and we're getting hail and losing crops or something's bad. I remember what he went through, and I remember what they went through, and I remember what my suegra went through, and that reminds me that I need to stop bitching and just move on. After the fire, my mother and father-in-law wanted to retire. It was devastating. It was 700 feet from our house. It was our shop, our cooler, everything on it. And again, we made an emotional decision when my father and mother-in-law come to me and they're like, can you buy us out? We want to retire. They didn't have enough insurance, and that insurance was their retirement assets, because you know in farming, for the farmers, there's no 401k. There's no pension plan. It's really, you put everything into it. So we took all our savings and started up, and we didn't have downtime because we had a crop coming in. And if we weren't able to harvest and sell that crop, the business would be done, and we would let all those people down. And that was a heavy weight, but it was also inspiring and motivational. And we couldn't have done it without our team. And I think when people talk about being successful, it's, again, like Wanda said, we feel imposter syndrome every day of the week, especially when I sit in some of these talks with legends. It's hard to sit there and talk about farming and then be up here being a successful farmer. But for me, it's taking care of the heart and soul and respecting the legacy and heritage of the farm and just being able to start that next season off. Okay, thank you. So the last thing that I think is important is we're a very diverse operation. We represent our community. We have Hispanic, we have all gay and lesbian employees, we have black people, Japanese. It's a melting pot of everything. And then we also have our kids and our nieces and our teams children as well, all involved in what we do. Without the next generation, your legacy's lost. And I know Howard set up it for the second generation set it up for the third, and then now the third to the fourth. And as the world changes, we need to keep working hard to set up it for the next generation, because that's your legacy. And you can really make your business model in your image. And I just wanted a quick little showing of those are the folks that are the face of our business and also the face of our future. Whoops. Thank you.
Ooh, muy bien. Not that I really need it, but I want to make sure that people way in the back can hear us, way up there. Hola chicos, bienvenidos. All right, I love this format because it makes everybody feel a little more inclusive. They don't feel the pressure of being there for 20-some minutes. I'll be sweating bullets and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, all of you touch a little bit on how do you really define being a successful farmer? And I can tell you as a farmer myself, I mean, I'll probably be dying, hopefully in 25 years, and I still don't feel that I'm successful. So how do you define success, Kelly? A couple of, sentences in a minute or so.
Hello. Okay. I took some notes. I think it was funny to consider this, because especially like living and working in one of the most expensive places in the country, where like the literal living wage in Santa Cruz is $37 an hour, which is definitely more than I pay myself. So it's a little bit of a strange thing to be called successful when I feel constantly like I'm trying to stay afloat in this extremely expensive place. I think instead, focusing on personally, I think maintaining inspiration in my work and not working, carrying a real constant feeling of dread, which I think a lot of farmers are familiar with because of just like how much we work. Being a good boss feels really important, so paying my workers a lot more than I've ever was paid as a farm worker feels important, and like really building, as I said in my introduction, like building a really positive workplace culture feels like a real success. Yeah, and just being a positive force in the community, so giving back as much as we can, donating as much as we can, and like, you know, educating people about farming, and yeah.
Wanda?
Yeah, I'm gonna sound a little cheesy and say that I'm gonna measure the success and the love. We do. That's not cheesy. Thank you. I wore it. I did the patch moment. Thank you for saying that. I've been doing the school garden thing in West Oakland since 2016. And because I grew with the kids and expanded to the middle school after elementary school, and also to the high school, I've gotten to see the kids across the arc of our relationship with them. And I get to see the difference that the outdoor education and the farm education makes in their lives, right? And now they're old enough to tell me about it. So in retrospect, right, I know and understand that success. I have learned that when you feed people, you are loving them, right? And when you love people, they grow in the ways our gardens do. So I think legacy, I think the benefit of time, those are the reasons that I can feel really good about what I do. In fact, one of my students is in this room. She might be, right? I've known her since she was in the 9th grade, right? And now she's not a kid anymore, right? And to be able to grow me, watch her grow, and we land in this room together doing this work, success.
It's hard to measure success as a farmer, I think. It's a unique thing where, you know, if you're making widgets in a factory, you know, you can do 10,000 of them in a day, and, you know, 10,000 is the measure of mastering something. In farming, you can be a farmer for 50 years, and there's some things you've only done 40 or 50 times. And every year changes, and there's different challenges. And I think, for me, the measure of success is sticking to your principles as much as you can. And for us, our biggest thing is always the people, our team. Without our team, we'd be nothing. And so we do everything we can to fight, scrape, and figure out to have sustainable living wages, to provide benefits, employee housing, and a lot of it's sacrifice too. Sometimes as a farm owner, you just don't take a check. You learn to live frugal. We're blessed that we've raised our kids, and most of them are on their own. You know how they are. They rebound and come back, but our youngest is 20. But some of the success that we measure even is from our kids that were raised doing, you know, getting dropped off on their own when they were 15 years old. My son Pablo at a farmer's market, because he was a big boy. It's like, okay, Pablo, this is your market, and he'd go run it, you know, as his mom was driving to another one, or running our farm stand, and then seeing them with our youngest son, Joaquin. He's now working, you know, besides going to college, he took some time off to go fight fires for the Forest Service this year, and signed on with the El Dorado Hotshots, going working 20 hours a day for 14 days in a row. You see that success. You see the success when your team members' children no longer look as farm work as something for immigrants and poor people that have nothing else to do, but as a viable way to have a career and raise a family. That's the success that you see.
Absolutely.
Gracias. So new farmers, if you ever want to be up here, you'll never feel like you're successful, but you got to do some of these things that they're telling us. First of all, love, respect, give them a chance, but pay them well, treat them like decent human beings, make sure they are part of the operation. There are farm workers, but they're team players. They're part of your operation. And I think as you are speaking and saying these things, it comes to my mind. Yeah, we as farmers, we struggle economically. We find lots of obstacles, but together as a community and as an employers, we can definitely overcome those things. All right? So, la próxima pregunta. That means the next question, Willie. Just kidding, Willie. I love you, Willie. I love everything that you do for me and how you're mentoring me. And you can pull my hair, even though I have not much, but who were your mentors? I know one of them is here for you. You mentioned it. I know you mentioned Dennis, which I've learned a lot from him as well. You mentioned family, but we want to hear from you. There's a few people when you're farming, like I can say, like for me, Phil Foster, he didn't even know, but he was one of my mentors.
Yeah, I guess I'd mentioned Dennis Tamura, but I want to just talk a little bit more about what I think was so amazing about learning from Dennis. I think probably a bunch of you know Dennis, which is cool, hopefully. But he's a real gentle leader. He leads. I think for me, what was really valuable about learning from him is he leads by asking questions. He really constantly pulled me into the critical thinking process of farming. So he would just cruise up next to me in the field when I was harvesting on his bike and, be like, oh yeah, it's getting to be time to do A, B, or C. Where do you think we should plant that? And I'm thinking, well, he's been farming since the 70s. Why is he asking me where we should plant something? But what it was then it became a conversation about, well, what considerations do we have? What do those plants need? What are different about these areas of the field? What's our irrigation considerations? Just like it instead of talking at me, which, is a really common way, I think that, as I'm talking at you guys, ironically, is just a common experience when you're in a learning position, just pulling me into the thought process. And I really try to continue that on my own farm. Also Jeff Larkey. I farm on land that Jeff Larkey farmed as Route 1 farms. Many of you know Jeff as well, and he continues to stay present on the land. He has his 1-acre retirement garden that gives him an excuse to be there all the time, and we talk a lot of issues out on the farm as well. So, yeah.
I would have to say a wonderful woman named Victory Lee, who was a legendary farmer in the Bay Area, and in particular, a school garden. Quickly, I met her out on one of those, those divine coincidences. I was walking my dog on a dog beach, and there's this white man coming at me, and he's running. But as he's getting closer and closer to me, he's smiling at me, and I'm like, what? And he's a good friend now. And so he comes and he goes, "You're Victory Lee." I said, "No." He goes, "Are you sure?" I was like, I swear to God, he's embarrassed by that part. I was like, "Sir, my name is Wanda." He goes, "You look just like," and he didn't know me anywhere. "You look just like Victory Lee. She's a master gardener." And so internally what I said was, aha, there is a black woman somewhere doing this, right? And I looked her up, and she had an open farm, something or another, that I went to. And it's interesting, she walked, I did look at him, I go, are you one of those white people who think we all look alike? Right? And he's like, "No, you look just like Victory Lee." So I went looking for somebody that looked like me. at this open farm. Luckily, there's only 5 people there. But she did look like me, by the way. Okay? She looked at me, she said, wow, you look like me. Right. And so she kind of automatically took me under her wing. And I didn't know that school gardens were her big thing. And I will tell you, I only got to have Victory in my life maybe 2 years. She died a very harrowing cancer death. And in supporting her in that process, she like made me, you will do school farming. And I was like, no, I don't know. I'm really just trying to grow a little bit of it. You will do school gardens. And I have been a school administrator, right? But she's the one that put me on that path, right? Not just to be a so-called master gardener, which, by the way, is a terrible name, but to work with kids, right? Because we need it.
Gracias. I think there's a question here that talks about challenges. And, you know, a lot of times when we define success or something beautiful that happens to us is, you know, I'm here, I was there at the right time, right place, right time. So a question that the staff wrote here for me, because I have to have some sort of discipline. Geographically, where you're located, how has that contributed to your success? And what challenges, you know, have you been able to overcome based on where you guys are located?
Let's see. One of the major elements of my farm is that we're located off-grid. Well, like, we have a PG&E to our creek pump, but there's no other electricity deeper into our field. So that was obviously a huge challenge in starting a flower farm. Flowers are super perishable and need to be in a cooler immediately. So that, and my friend Ellis, who I see right here, who's actually leading off-grid solar workshop today, I think this afternoon, Ellis built us an off-grid solar cooler, which was didn't exist before that, as far as we know. So that was amazing, like that was a challenge, but then resulted in this like real gift, which is that now we have off-grid solar power for a cooler, so we're not paying PG&E for that. Yeah, but being deeper, so we're down a Forest Service road, so, and in the forest surrounding our farm, it was burnt in the CZU fire in 2020. So like a lot of trees come down on that road. We've had to I've had to cart harvests out of the farm on like gorilla carts transferring to my truck. We have flooding in the winter, well, not this winter, but generally we have flooding, so that creates a lot of challenges with the pumping out of the creek. But you know, another gift of our location is that we don't get real hard frost. We also are like close to San Francisco. A ton of our customers are there, and we've found we're not too far from like Santa Cruz and Watsonville as well, which is we get our flowers to Los Angeles through a trucking company in Watsonville. So yeah, it's a real mix of blessings and curses, but it's also just gorgeous, as you saw from the photos. I think like we're literally like surrounded by Big Basin State Park, and so every moment in that place is like just an incredible gift, and that's where we go to work every day. It's very special. Yeah.
We're in one of the fastest growing counties in the country, Placer County. You know, up until the 50s, that was the fruit basket of the United States. Post-gold rush, all the water canals were there, and people started growing pears, plums, and peaches. And going from tens of thousands of acres, now at 100 acres, we're the largest farm left in Placer County. Is challenging. When the price of an acre of land can be anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 per acre, and McMansions pop up all around you. I mean, it can be sad. You know, some of my kids are just like, hey, you know, I won't even say what they'd say, but you know, they hate it, you know, when they come back and visit from the city or wherever they're at, and it's like it just keeps getting built on and built on. And, you know, one of my wife's favorite sayings of mine is, you know, you can stick your head in the sand, or you can shake your fist at God, or whatever, you can embrace it. So, you know, we've tried to embrace it by, you know, developing our on-farm sales a little bit more, you know, really exploring the closer outlets that we have around us. But it's challenging when, you know, we're blessed with our water system. You know, our water is all gravity fed. We pump it through it's gravity fed without a pump, goes through our micro sprinklers. And so our footprint's really small, especially even through our distribution route. But the challenges of having all these people around you, everybody builds right on your property because it's pretty. You know, they may have 10 acres, but they want to build right on your orchard and look in. Weather challenges, climate change, you know, it's like I live in a very red county. And what I tell people, two things that I will not discuss with you are flat earth and climate change. As a farmer, the last 3 years, we've had significant challenges with temperature extremes. You know, in January when it's 85 degrees 3 years ago, and then at the end of February, beginning of March, it's 19 degrees with snow, and you've had 70% of your trees in bloom, and they all freeze, and you watch them melt off. It provides a lot of challenges. So what do? You got land, you got a great team, you got water, you got a farming legacy. What we did is diversify even more. From a farm that grows 50 varieties of peach, 40 of nectarine, from April through September, even as diversified as that, with citrus and persimmons and palm fruit and jujubes, what name it, we said, okay, we're gonna grow row vegetables, row crops. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had team members that had farmed sustainably for generations in Mexico, and we said, hey, let's start trying it. Keep our people working, you know, keep the farm moving, and that's what we've done, is kind of embrace some of the challenges instead of just complaining about them.
All right.
So I already said I grow on asphalt. And I grow on asphalt in the hood. It is so much the hood that the neighborhood is called the Lower Bottoms, right? And literally on the other side of the cyclone fence that borders our garden space is quite a lot of drug dealing, quite a lot of homelessness and trash, gunshots, usually at night, not during the day when the kids are there. It's a very different place at night. So certainly that is challenging. But I would say our greatest challenge are that we do our work in partnership with others, right? Major agencies like Caltrans and Alameda County Transit and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, right? All those kinds of things. But the two main partners we have are the City of Oakland and the School District of Oakland. And I don't know how much y'all know about Oakland, but both of those systems are devastatingly broken, okay? So the grant that we got, $1.8 million to plant trees with the city, right? So it was one of those IRA grants, right? So the City of Oakland got $8 million. They gave two nonprofits $1.8 million each. A year ago, haven't seen a dime of that money yet, right? To the point where I'm screaming and hollering, you all are gonna bankrupt our organization messing around, right? Having to go to city council meetings, and I tried not to rail at them. I instead invited them into the relationship, right? Oakland Unified, and if you didn't know, our mayor just got indicted. For what? $95,000. You're gonna go to jail for $95,000, anyway. Oakland Unified is also a devastatingly broken school district, right? And when you're up in it, it's kind of mind-boggling. I remind them that the land that they have is public land, right? But that doesn't mean that they know how to work with their partners. And in fact, the school district doesn't know how to relate to the site team. at individual schools. So truly, that piece, that people work, that relationship work is the greatest challenge and where we've put the most energy to date while we wait for them to write the check.
Well, that money will come. It's federal money.
I
It's
trust.
federal government. It takes
Yeah.
a while, but hopefully it's there and it will come.
We really wanted it before Donald got in, but okay.
I'm waiting for my 2023 money to come. It hasn't come yet.
Right.
So, location, listening to your crew, and then be patient and community. That's yeah. How are we doing with time? We still have 10 minutes, 15 minutes? 15. Okay. So they decided to do this format because, don't go away, this is where the dance starts, señorita. We want to have you ask questions because every successful keynote that we have, there's always people running around and they don't get to ask the questions. Please be brief. This is their stage, not your stage, but it's an opportunity for us to ask questions because we need to learn from them and then, you know. So, preguntas. Señor Roberto, ¿tienes una pregunta? Muchachos, who are the alpha farmers, by the way? Ustedes son el futuro, hagan ruido. You are the future, make some noise. Chingón. Aquí está. Is the microphone on? Are you okay taking questions now? Okay. ¿Quién es primero? Número uno. Nombre y pregunta. Name, state your name and question. And ¿para quién? And for who?
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Yunuen Silva. Good morning. And I'm here with Alba. First, Miss Wanda. Yes? I want to congratulate you because I am a teacher myself, transitioning into agriculture with my father. Secondly, from the three of you, thank you so much for the incredible restorative justice work that you do every day. Secondly, what would be tu consejo, your advice for someone like me in my 30s, well, barely 30, just starting into farming and going into excuse me, egg production.
Egg production.
Yes, and just your advice as a first-time farmer. Thank you.
I started my journey in farming at 32 years old. Leaving a career was challenging. It's nice when you get those paid vacation and paid benefits. So my advice really is lower your expectations on how you're going to live. It's one of those things that anything that's worth having in life is going to be difficult, it's going to require sacrifice, and it's going to be challenging. And you got to plan your life that way. We planned it with our kids and raised 4 kids. So I'd say before you get into it, try to get yourself out of debt as much as possible. Be comfortable with eating beans, rice, and tortillas. Está bien.
Salsa.
Con salsa, con chile siempre. Embrace some of your indigenous food because it's the best for you and it's the healthiest and the cheapest. And raise what you can of your own. Give your kids a different perspective if you're deciding to have them on the farm. It's doable. It's challenging, but it's doable. My son Joaquin spent 3 years old. He used to run around all day long with me and his grandpa, and he would just bring his wrenches when we were working on a tractor or whatever, and had a hoe, and he would be out there, cleaning up our tomato patch in our little garden that we had. But you just got to make do. Don't expect to go on vacation. That's not. It's one thing to say, hey, I needed some time to reset. A lot of that stuff is extra, and you got to sacrifice, and you got to build yourself up to it, just like we teach everybody that comes before us. Sacrifice. And if you do it and keep your nose to the grindstone and sacrifice a little bit, things will come out good in the end.
Absolutely. I was a school administrator, often in private schools, even boarding schools. And I just had a passion for growing food. I had the green thumb. But for the teacher in you, use what you know. It has been not easy, but I've made a way in the school garden path because I knew schools, right? I knew how to talk to other administrators. I knew what teachers wanted and needed in the classroom. And so I've used my already inherent skill set to inform what I do when I'm working with kids and working with the districts and schools.
I would say I think it's really valuable to work for other people that are in the kind of area of farming that you want to go into. I think there's a lot of emphasis on starting your own farm very quickly, and I think a lot of people jump into it quicker than they should. There's a real value in seeing how other people do things and they getting to learn from their mistakes while you're getting a paycheck. That's a really special place to be in farming because it becomes much more challenging when you have your own thing. Yeah.
Gracias. Próxima pregunta. ¿Cómo se llama, jefe?
My name is Salvador. And then I speak one language and a half. I don't speak clear English. You know,
Hey,
one quarter is fine.
I still don't speak enough English, and I'm here.
Yeah, but you know,
Chingon.
más o menos, more or less, no worry. But I want to try to your next, you.
Yes.
You say you work for the kindergarten, for middle school, all of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
My question is, how you, when you started, you like to do that, or the school sent to you teach the kids? No, come.
I guess I started.
Didn't finish.
Oh,
that.
go ahead.
Because something you thinking, and you want to do it, something became for your heart.
Yes.
What is that?
So I've been working with kids for a really long time. Even when I was being raised with my mother, she was a Head Start teacher when Head Start started. So I did a lot of work in schools and came to love that and be good at it. But it's funny, the one thing, people are like, what do you want to be, when you go to college? I was like, I don't want to be a teacher, right? You know how we don't want to be what our parents are, right? And now here I am in schools. And the babies, they just give so much love, right? They call me Mama Wanda. Okay, my cynical answer is that, yeah, Mama Wanda, I don't have enough titties, quite frankly, for all of y'all. Right? And while it is true, maybe it's not true, right? And so it's the passion for people and the passion for kids who are pretty pure in it. And then even the passion for kids that live in our ghettos and live in a disenfranchised way. They are diamonds being forged in fire. And in recognizing that, I use that and it propels me forward professionally.
Wow, so nice. Because the kids say sincerely what they feel. And
Absolutely.
They call you Mama what? Mama Wanda?
Mama Wanda.
Mama Wanda. Okay, Mama
Yeah.
Wanda.
One of those kids came in our office in our classroom, and she walked up to me. She's like, I thought I wanted to be a farmer just like you. I was like, oh, baby, that's wonderful. She goes, yeah, but you're always at a computer. Right? Just know.
Adelante, señorita.
Hola, my name is Myra. I'm from a citrus farm in the Redlands, Old Grove Orange. We do a lot of community outreach and we work with children. So we're going with the cheese. So what is the cheesy bumper sticker message that I can take home to share with the future generations? And this is for all of you.
The bumper sticker for...
Just like for future generation farmers, and just the youth of the world, telling them this is your farm, this is your people, this is where your food comes from.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway message?
I tell them they are no different than the plants and the creatures, and that we teach them how to grow trees, but those trees need the very same thing people do, right? Air, fire, water, nutrients, soil. I get to go, water, not soda, right? Good food, not McDonald's, right? And everybody, again, needs the love, right? So grow yourself like you would grow any plant. The best day was a special ed kid said, I asked him at the end of the school year, what did you get out of doing these garden classes all year? And he said, I learned that we are no better than the worms.
I don't know. I'm too on the spot. I can't think like that. That would take me like 5 days to come up with the perfect bumper sticker, so I'll pass.
I don't know if I could fit it onto a bumper sticker.
Right.
But I think it's, I've been blessed with some good mentors in life. And I think a lot of stuff that we do now is always compressed into, and I'm guilty of it, I love TikTok too. All right, my kids, that's how I communicate with my kids and my nieces sometimes. But everything's in a short, concise stuff, and I think we're losing a lot of that face time. And mentorship's huge. And I think that one of the things I like to pass on from a rough kid that grew up in the inner city, that had tattoos on his hands when he was 13 years old, and was lost and didn't believe in himself or his abilities. It took all those mentors along the line with those little things they would tell me that resonated as I got older and helped me with my journey. So for when it comes to agriculture, I think it's important to be able to let the young people of this world know that it's a way to connect with their ancestors, their roots, and true freedom. Yeah.
Grow something, talk to a farmer, and I'll be expecting royalties. Frank, bienvenido. You're in San Diego. We just met. I love what you're doing, and I want to go down and visit you in San Diego so I can eat some guayabas, man, that I cannot grow in Watsonville.
I'm going with you.
Well, you're all welcome to come eat some guayabas. Hello, my name is Frank. I have the pleasure of leading a nonprofit farm on my family's ranch down in San Diego called S&S Friendly Ranch, named after my grandmother and great uncle. And I'm curious from you, through you four, how you balance diving into the technical aspect of the work, fixing tractors or doing all the computer work and writing grants and figuring out farm plans with the need to focus on people, process, and culture, especially as you're growing in an organization. As someone who's let that slip because I love to twiddle in all the details. Yeah.
Well, I'd say when I started the farm, I just had to get really good at asking questions and just thinking about all the people in my network. Luckily, since I'd been in farming for 11 years prior to starting my own farm, I knew a lot of people. So I just asked a ton of questions to those people to start to get help with a lot of that more technical part because I had a big learning curve. But definitely, when I think about the first season, a lot of that, people stuff was, I was so fried that I wasn't able to show up with all the kind of integrity and communication and relationships that I would ideally like. So I just was, trying to build up my workers enough to be able to start delegating out parts of the farm that, because I was managing all aspects of the farm, so I was just racing to build up my workers enough so that I could start, delegating things out to them. I have several managers on my farm that are managing different aspects, and I think that allows me to be able to focus in this kind of bigger systems way and also just notice the vibes and be responsive to things that are coming up in a different way. Yeah.
I would say the most important thing is developing a team and respecting them. I get our best. I help bring to life the ideas of our team members. I'm not creating the ideas. I mean, you try to reinvent the wheel and you read a bunch of stuff and you can go down that rabbit hole. But when you have people that have worked the land and they're the ones that are picking peaches all day long for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. You know, who am I to come in and tell them, you know, as bright as I may be, how to do it? I think when you allow for ownership of your team and allow them to drive change, you can be successful. Believe in people. Hire the right people, foster the right people, pay them correctly, and let them do their job, get out the way sometimes.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have my answer as well. I hired a really good team this year. I will tell you that going back a couple of years, I didn't have that. I endured, survived is the correct word, a lot of internal angst, if not insurrection, right? And I didn't realize how much I'd been working with people that didn't have the great support and goodness for me, even though they were paid to be doing that. And once we got a team who could really do that work, it's remarkable. I can now be at the computer like I need to. So I don't try to balance it. I'm trying to remember to get out in the soil. My nails have never been this long, right? And clean, right? In the last few years until now, but that's because of having people who can do the work and want to do the work and are interested in team.
Gracias. Roberto, time is always, permíteme un segundito, just hold on 1 second. Do we need to do a land acknowledgement or blessing, or can we? Because I understand you were a little busy when we started. Can you want to go ahead and, oh, she'll introduce herself. Bienvenida. Gracias.
I swear I'm not staff, but I do have one announcement before I offer this close. So Practical Teachings from Soil to Spreadsheets from Queer Farmers is in Evergreen, not Kiln. Please reference the room grid on page 7 for locations and workshops, making sure that we know that it is in Evergreen at 10:30, which means the California Food and Farm Policy for farmers is at Kiln 10:30. So, all right, how to spit that out. Coming full circle is so very important. And when we go full circle, we are reminded that time is not linear. So, as a callback to those of you who were here Thursday evening, if you remember a song, if you remember a rhythm, you might recognize what I'm going to offer after we acknowledge a few words. Can I hear you say, Amah Pititakawas? Amah Pititakawas. Can I hear you say Rumsian? Rumsian. Esalen. You're acknowledging the language of this land. Rumsian is one language of 8 in Ohlone territory. And Amah Pititakawas is in my language, the Mutsun dialect, because I come from Indian Canyon, which is 15 miles south of Hollister. And I am tribal chairwoman from Indian Canyon Nation, daughter of Honorable Elder Anne Marie Sayers, daughter of Elena Sayers. And coming from Indian Canyon, my mother and my grandmother taught me that we are of a matriarchal society, matrilineal bloodline. Our aunties, our grandmothers, they are the decision makers for the larger decisions. And when you think about the Constitution, it was leaned to by those founding fathers to the Iroquois Confederacy. And they forgot one key component. Honoring the grandmothers, honoring the decision makers, the final say was there, right there with the matriarchs. So we can't just cherry pick the convenient parts, you know, that low-hanging fruit. We have to be integral to our relationship to the first people of the world, which are the plants and the animals. And may we acknowledge the history that came before us, from acknowledgement of pre-contact or before time history of indigenous peoples, as well as the histories and narratives of communities who have been impacted and shifted, because we are all impacted by colonization. And when you think about it, when you honor your elders and your ancestors, we all have indigenous lineages from the land of our ancestors. So we all can honor our indigeneity. However, how are we being good guests? How are we being good ancestors in training if we are not on our ancestral homeland? And so my mother taught me when song, ceremony, and dancing stops, so does the earth. I believe that, and I want to honor our hummingbirds. Humunya in the Mutsun language is hummingbird, and this language here, in the Rumsian dialect, it's humaya. So we're going to say humaya. Can you say that? Humaya. And we have traditional stamp drums because we don't have hand drums. We have clapper sticks and rattles. So I'm going to just do a beat, and you're welcome to stomp with it. And it's a really easy song. Humaya, 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 weha, weha. Humaya, 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 weha, weha, ho. That's really easy, right? Humaya, 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 weha, weha. Humaya, 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 weha, weha, ho. Humaya, 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 weha, weha. Humaya, 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 weha, weha, ho. Last one. Humaya, 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 weha, weha. Humaya, 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 weha, weha, ho. Oh! So welcome to Rumsey and Ohlone territory, and parts of Monterey is also Esalen territory. May we honor truth and history and be good ancestors in training. Thank you so very much, amazing panelists.
Muchísimas gracias. Bravo. No tiempo for another question? Roberto, you've been standing there, so let's. ¿Para quién es la pregunta and cuál es tu pregunta? Who's this question for and what is your question, Roberto?
So, as a,
Get closer.
as a farmer that's getting into working with younger children, younger generation, working with the school programs and school visits and things like that, I'm kind of new to it, and we've done a few visits, and we're creating programs and curriculums. So, questions for Wanda, and you mentioned you were working with kids in the school gardens for about 10 years, and as you see them progress through working with the farm, what are some of the key takeaways? Maybe some of the children have showed an interest in pursuing a career in agriculture, maybe some have, you've talked about it. What really inspired them to pursue potentially getting in agriculture or actually in agriculture today?
So all of them in first grade tell me they want to be farmers, right? When you're holding a chicken and you know that chicken every day, it's hard not to want to be a farmer, right? And so it's more important to me that you don't necessarily need to grow up to be a farmer, but you do need to be an earth steward. And kids in the schools, and I'm probably preaching to the choir. Kids in schools, the young people are terrified. They see the climate change and its impacts, right? And they can feel helpless to do anything about it. So I think one of the things is expose them to lots of people who look like them, or at least look different from the standard, right? And they can be found, they exist, right? But if we just teach them to be earth stewards from where they are, right? Take care of the tree that's in front of your home, right? Pick up the trash, reduce, reuse, recycle, all of the things. And if they all take pieces of that and they get in where they fit in, then I think we're doing the job.
Gracias. I want to personally thank you for being on stage. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but this is your community. We are your community. We're here to support you. We're here to help you. And we're here to learn from you. Vamos a darles, let's give a good round of applause to Wanda, Karen, and Justin.